Welcome into the opening line report, off-season NFL opening line report. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. We're talking March Madness, maybe a little MLB talk here with the season starting on Thursday. But Teddy, Elite Eight, top of mind right now. Welcome in. Happy Monday morning to you, Teddy.
Hey, happy Monday. And I just want to talk, we call it the NFL opening line report during season. In the off-season, we do try to make sure that we focus on NFL as much as possible. Obviously, in the middle of March Madness, we're not going to do that. But we also haven't seen a whole lot of season wins come out for the NFL just yet because we don't have the 17-game schedule yet. We just looked before we came on air, and the NFL schedule, quote, will be released somewhere between May 10th and 14th, the second week of May. So at that point, we're likely to have NFL win totals, and at that point, we'll probably focus a little bit more on the NFL than on the other sports. But for now, obviously, college hoops, MLB starting this week, and NBA holding center stage here on the opening line report.
Absolutely, Teddy. You got to love it when the NFL, of all companies and, I guess you could say sports leagues here, gives out a time frame, not an exact date, but hey, around this time we're gonna. What do you think that's about?
So that's not. I mean, it's from somebody else. I'm reading on an article that doesn't quote the NFL.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, the NFL gets to do whatever they want to, whenever they want to do it. They are the 900-pound gorilla of the sports world and the sports betting world. So, but why they would say May 10th versus May 14th, I couldn't tell you. I do know this. You want to look at schedules. It's been a 16 or 17 game season before you're betting season wins, because it makes a big difference who you play and when. Not when you play, who you play in terms of the analysis and how those games are laid out over the course of the campaign. I would never bet an NFL season win total without having the schedule in front of me. It's that important, which is not the case necessarily for MLB or NBA or whatever, where there are schedule nuances, but they're not that dramatic from one team to another. In the NFL, you play all your good teams early and you're sitting there, 2-6 at the halfway point. It changes the trajectory of the second half of your season. You don't see those type of scheduling disparities in other sports. So the NFL, it's key to see that schedule before you get involved with season win totals, not to mention future book wagers. We talk about odds to win, whatever. So waiting patiently for that NFL schedule release here. What is it? It's still March, right? Yeah, it's still March for another couple of days. We're still more than a month away.
Still March Madness, Teddy. And that's what the main theme of this video is. But when Teddy talks NFL season win totals, guys, you want to listen. With a lot of sports, when Teddy talks, you want to listen. But NFL season win totals since 2001, guys, 91 and 41. That's 69% win rate. That's almost unheard of in the sports betting business. If you're new to it, you don't see many 69% win rates since 2001. So check him out, sportsmemo.com, wagertalk.com, and you can get his season win total report there in the NFL. Huge win rate for Teddy. But Teddy, we're talking March Madness here off the top, and we got Elite Eight. We got tonight and tomorrow, actually. So Tuesday is going to be college basketball. I actually applaud the college basketball, the NCAA, for doing this, taking prime time on a Monday night and a Tuesday night with the NFL not around. Now college basketball stepping up into the center stage, getting a lot of eyeballs, talking about March Madness here, getting prime time on the East Coast and the West Coast. Starting off tonight, we got Oregon State and Houston, AAC versus Pac-12. Pac-12 has been the surprise in terms of conferences coming into March Madness and what they've been able to do here. But we are seeing Houston -8-point favorites, 129 being the total. Interesting to note, all the games the rest of the way at Lucas Oil Stadium, unders have been a huge trender there. Unders have really been a trender, Teddy, in all of March Madness. We're seeing a low total here. It's low for a reason. Houston laying 8. That's kind of a tough one with a low possession game. Neither of these two teams really looking to go up tempo. I kind of like the dog and the under here. How are you feeling about the Beavers and Cougs tonight?
So who's stepping in front of Oregon State at this point?
I'm not. Yeah.
I mean, and yet my gut says this is where Oregon State goes home. It does. But and the other thing is who's betting against the Pac-12 at this point?
Right.
What Oregon State has done I can't think of a comp. I'm trying. I was trying to think of like maybe UConn's to turn and run of the championship game. That's not a comp because UConn was. No. They're not. UConn didn't have to play their way in. All right, in the conference tournament, UConn would have. They were already in. Oregon State was. They weren't getting an NIT bid. You understand? I mean, Oregon State was nothing. They were the projected last place team in the Pac-12 coming into the season. They played that way. I should say they played like a last place team. They certainly didn't play like a contender for the first 3 months of the campaign. And then sometime in February, man, everything started to click for the Beavers. And you're talking about a team. And again, one thing I don't just look at point spread results. All right. You want to know margin of victory. Oregon State's margin of victory has been insane. They're 7-point dogs. They win by 7 against Loyola. They're 6-point dogs. They win by 10 against Oklahoma State. They're 8.5-point dogs. They win by 14 against Tennessee. They're 8.5-point dogs. They win by a deuce against Colorado. They're 8.5-point dogs. They win by 11 against Oregon. They're 5.5-point dogs. They win by 4 against UCLA. They're 5.5. I mean, they started out as 5-point dogs to Stanford. Okay, when they started, they were -1 to Cal and won that game by a bucket. And then they were plus 5.5 at Utah and won that game by 5. But since the start of tournament play, if you're counting, that's 6 straight wins as underdogs. And all of those wins by underdogs at plus 5.5 or higher, and all of them coming by more than double digits against the spread. They're not just beating the point spread. They're annihilating the point spread every single game. So whatever the season-long power rating number for Oregon State is clearly wrong. Okay. Mm-hmm. But it feels like Houston's been a Final Four team all year. All right. I mean, they have. And Oregon State hasn't. And at some point, you have to. I mean, clearly you can tell it's not a game I'm playing. Because I can't step in front of Oregon State. I can't do it.
Teddy,
but I feel like Houston wins this game.
What about totals wise? Seeing 129 here, low total, but any if you had to play it, would you play it over or under?
So I cashed Houston under against Syracuse, and that was nice. And you like those Rocket Chair winners.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I had another right side yesterday with Alabama, UCLA under, and that didn't work out so well.
Well, you got OT'd. I mean, it was still the right bet.
I know. Well, that doesn't do me or my clients any good. I like right sides when they cash. I don't like right sides when they lose in overtime, especially on that type of an ending where it's just like everyone else gets to cheer, but you don't.
Yeah.
Those are frustrating, but Houston, and I cashed ticket with Rutgers, and I was debating side and total in that game as well. I'm only looking at Houston under the total. Okay, Houston's not going to play with any kind of pace. Their defense is elite, and the shooting comes and goes, and they're injured at the point guard position. All that speaks to unders. Oregon State is not a team that that their offense has been good, but they're here because their defense has been exceptional. I mean, that's been they shot 40% each of the last 2 games. All right. It wasn't shooting. It was defense. And still able to win by margin and survive and advance. So it's not offensive capability. So I guess I lean under in this matchup. That said, I mean, the total is 125.5 with Loyola against Oregon State. Now it's 129.5, and Houston's a lot better offensively than they certainly can be. Lean under. I didn't get to the window there.
Okay, Teddy, we got a bunch of guys in the chat box. Tyrone, welcome in. Kid as well. Frenchie Betts, James Hines. Some questions, guys, here on YouTube, the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Come join us in the chat box. Feel free to fire out any questions. We'll answer them here live. Sports betting questions, Vegas questions, March Madness questions. It all works, guys. MLB as well. So try to answer them live here as we break down the games in the Elite Eight for the opening line report each and every Monday on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Teddy, first question for you. Getting OT'd on an under, Just last night, you were on the right side, UCLA, Alabama, towards the under. It hit. I was also on that. Something that I noticed in-game live betting, which James is asking here, is a lot of the newer sports books. I don't want to say newer, but like FanDuel, DraftKings of sorts. They'll offer the will the game go to overtime, and it's usually around a plus 800, plus 900 price. If you're betting an under, do you think sprinkling on the yes, the game will go to overtime to kind of hedge your bet if it does go to overtime and you get OT'd with an under ticket in your pocket, you think that's worth a look as a betting strategy moving forward?
You certainly could. And it is probably an effective way, if you're getting plus 800, plus 900 in that range, to hedge your bet without siphoning off a significant portion of your profit. Right. Mm-hmm. One of the things I don't like to do with hedging is to turn winners into pushes. Right. And with the under yesterday, the only way that game loses is if things break wrong at the end of regulation and it goes to OT. So I felt like even at the end, you still have a positive expectation with that wager. I'm not looking to turn that positive expectation wager into a push. So it's not a bet that I would have made even yesterday, but it's certainly a reasonable way to consider a hedge. Absolutely. Your best case hedging scenarios are when you get a plus price back on your hedge, so you don't have to risk nearly as much. Your best case, you have whoever at 20 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, and they're plus 300 for the game. On the other side, they're laying points, and the other side is plus 300. You get a plus price both ways. That's your dream scenario. This isn't necessarily that, but it's certainly a situation where there are hedges you can make in game that could reduce your risk. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. It's not something that I would say absolutely not. Of course. The problem is that the plus 800 price on the will the game go to overtime is not. I don't think the math is right on that, unfortunately. But it still does allow you to hedge off an under bet in a way that won't have you ripping your hair out if the game goes into overtime.
Sure. And just to explain it, if you're new to kind of sports betting here, let's just say you're $100 bettor, you bet the under in the UCLA Alabama game, and you put, say, $10 on it. Will it go to overtime at plus 800? You'll get 880 back of the loss you'll get with it going to overtime. So it was just kind of a hedging strategy that I was thinking about last night when the game was going on, because you could see it, coming in with UCLA and Alabama going back and forth, that overtime was an option, and betting college basketball totals for as many years as I had. Getting OT'd is just something I kind of chalk off as right bet, wrong result, Teddy, and looking for ways to kind of getting out of that in the future. I just thought that might be a smart betting angle to go ahead in the future. So we got next game up here, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, estimated tip. I say estimated because I believe all the games here are at Lucas Oil Stadium, so they're going to have to wait for the first game to finish and then go 30 minutes after for the tip-off, but they are projecting about 10 p.m. Eastern tip here with a top 10 battle in the Elite Eight here, Teddy. No Cinderellas in this one. Arkansas versus Baylor. We're seeing the Baylor Bears minus 8 points, 148.5 being the total. Musselman and company for Arkansas kind of holding the SEC flag here versus the Baylor Bears in the Big 12. This is a good matchup, the nightcap tonight. Are you interested in getting involved?
Yeah, so let me ask you this, though. You said that you like the new format better with the games, each game played individually on Saturday. You don't have games going against each other with the Thursday, Friday games in the Sweet 16. Each game gets its own highlight. And then Monday, Tuesday, we get the Elite Eight games as opposed to Saturday, Sunday. If you work on the East Coast and this game tips off 10 o'clock tonight, and it's going until after midnight, you like this format better? I was surprised how late, I thought maybe they'd start early, one of the games early. This is late, and it's going to be real late for you on the East Coast. And we'll see what the ratings do, given that I don't know if they'll be better today than they would have been on a Sunday. This is my client play for today, and I laid with Baylor. I want a team off a win in which they didn't play their best game. I want a good team off a win in which they didn't play their best game. Baylor just shot 3 of 19 for 3-point range, and still was able to win and cover last time. I took a Nova team that had they had 10 turnovers in their 2 previous games playing without their point guard. They turned them over 15 times. in that contest. And Arkansas is not a good 3-point shooting team. They're not a great 3-point defending team. And I think Baylor's going to have edges both in the paint and on the perimeter. And again, it's a Bears team that they only covered, after the COVID pause, they covered 1 out of 8 in regulation. They got an OT cover as well. But they went through a nasty stretch where they weren't covering point spreads and weren't playing at that same level. Baylor's playing at that same level now. And for as good as Arkansas has been, Big 12 is a class here. I like the Bears minus the spot.
Okay. And Teddy, you bring up 3-point shooting. I mean, with it being in Lucas Oil Stadium, I believe the 3-point percentages throughout March Madness so far, I mean, not a huge sample size, but 3-point shooting has been down, and that's kind of worked towards this under trend. I mean, I'm guessing you're working that into your handicap, it's a pretty big part of your handicap in terms of 3-point shooting in all of these games, particularly with Baylor games.
So no, I mean, Baylor just coming off a game in which they didn't hit anything,
right?
And when a team wins and covers a game in a tournament in which they made 3 3-pointers, 3 of 19, I think that will there'd be some reversion to the mean the next time around. And when we saw from Baylor, they're good enough defending, and they're good enough in other ways to win a game and cover a point spread with that type of 3-point shooting. I think that's a positive sign. That's a bet on sign. That's a buy sign, not a sell sign on a team like the Baylor Bears. Now, you talked about 3-point shooting in the tournament as a whole. And again, it's 27% from 3-point range in the Sweet 16 games. And you say, well, why was 16? Why were the unders so dominant in Sweet 16 action? Well, that's why the unders were so dominant. Again, what was it? 6 unders, 2 overs. In the Sweet 16s, and one of the 2 overs obviously coming in overtime. So it was 7-1 to the under in regulation. But when the teams collectively shoot 27% from 3, that's going to happen. And again, I don't anticipate through a 3-point shooter to suddenly go up to, let's say, 37% as a whole in the Elite 8. But I don't think we're going to see 27% shooting over these 4 games. We'll see something better than that, even with the questionable sightlines at Lucas Oil Arena.
All right, Teddy, I'm with you. We got Monday night in the books. Tuesday's matchup here, guys, going through each and every game in the Elite 8. Tricky handicap here, Teddy. We got the early start here, 6-5-7, 6-5-8, the rotation numbers here. USC, the Trojans, versus the number 1 overall seed, Gonzaga Bulldogs. We're seeing Gonzaga minus 9-point favorites. Highest total on the board for the Elite 8, seeing 154, 153 and a halves out there. You liking anything with the Trojans and Bulldogs?
The Trojans can give the Zags a game. I mean, USC has, again, at this stage, we look for NBA talent. All right, Zags have NBA talent. So do the Trojans. Multiple NBA players. Future NBA players on that team, including the potential, they're talking about Mobley as a number 2 overall pick, potentially. So do they pass the talent test? Yes, absolutely. USC has the talent to hang around in this ball game. Do they catch the, is their conference any good test? Yeah, they passed that test. Pac-12 has been the story of the tournament so far. I don't even know what the second story is. The story is the Pac-12 thus far. And obviously, it's a Gonzaga team whose betting bandwagon is enormous. 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread here in the tournament already. On the heels of everything they did in the regular season, on the heels of, et cetera. I mean, there are no point spread bargains with Gonzaga at this stage. And USC, they have the talent to hang around. Some teams Gonzaga just outclasses. USC is not going to be one of them. I expect a game. I expect a battle. I don't expect a blowout.
Yeah, Teddy, there's a lot of kind of cross currents here in this handicap, at least in my opinion. You got the Pac-12 thing going on with USC. USC, like you're talking about, they kind of passed the eye test lately. They're looking like they're playing really good basketball, which is a good thing at this time of year. And then Gonzaga, like you talked about, I just don't like stepping in front of that type of profile of bet. They're just smashing teams and covering point spreads. So that's why I, at least sidewise, have stayed off of this one.
Yeah. So my, I guess my long-term big dance philosophy for games like this is everybody gets tested at least once, getting to the Final Four, and the Zags haven't been tested yet. I mean, you see it. You go back and look. I mean, year in, year out, you get tested. You have to survive one test to get there. I think this will be the Zags.
Well, it needs to be, Teddy, because if you're going to point out a flaw in Gonzaga, it would be their strength of schedule overall. I mean, coming from the WCC, they really didn't play anybody. I think BYU was overrated. I think that showed it when they got into the tournament. St. Mary's was down this year. And when you looked at their out of conference, yes, they played West Virginia and Iowa. I mean, they played Auburn without their best player, though. They only beat West Virginia by 5. I mean, it was a 10-point game against Iowa. And then in the tournament, Teddy, and I'm not talking the WCC tournament, which they ran away with. I'm talking about the NCAA tournament, Norfolk State, Oklahoma, and Creighton to make it to the Elite Eight. That's not only the easiest pathway this year, that's the easiest pathway I can think off the top of my head in NCAA, really of my lifetime in the tournament.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I don't. Except for Pepperdine, man. What about Pepperdine? They made everyone money.
Did they?
Okay. Just when they win the CBI or the CIT or whichever one it was, where they won. But so one of my biggest objections to standard big dance analysis is when people start talking about who somebody played and who somebody beat in November or December. You know, they're like, oh, well, they were good enough to do this back then. Therefore, that means they're good now. The November and December wins against your West Virginias and your Iowas of the world, they mean they don't move my needle on my radar at all.
Okay.
You know, this will be the toughest team Gonzaga has faced in a long, long time. I expect they'll be tested.
Teddy, we got one more game left. And guys, reminder, feel free to throw out anything, on Twitter at Teddy_covers, at Drew Martin Betts, if you're watching live via Twitter, and the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Feel free to chime in here in the chat box. Any questions you want answered before we finish the show here? We got one more game in March Madness, then a look ahead to MLB. Also, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below in the comments section. That works as well. We can answer the questions on next week's show. Teddy, last game here, tomorrow night's nightcap. We got Pac-12 and Big Ten. We got your Michigan Wolverines versus the UCLA Bruins, 136 being the total. Looks like Michigan, off of that huge win against Florida State, -7-point favorites. You liking anything here, UCLA versus Michigan, Teddy?
So this is one of those games where I would expect, I mean, this has got defensive scrum written all over it, you know? And again, UCLA went into overtime to send the game over the total. In regulation, let's just assume the last shot misses at 65-62 and stays 17.5 points under after staying 18.5 points under against Abilene Christian and staying under against BYU and on down the line. The Wolverines offense has been clicking here in the tournament. Really has. They've shot the ball well. 50%. Well, they were just shy of 50% against Florida State. They shot better than 50% against LSU, and we're right there against Texas Southern as well. That I don't anticipate those shooting percentages to stay at that level against Mick Cronin's defense. And UCLA has been so methodical. This really feels like a slow-paced defensive struggle in which, A, I'm not excited about laying points, and B, I'm certainly would look at the under here before I would get involved with any other wager in this ballgame. These are two elite teams on the defensive end of the defensive end of the basketball, and I'm not convinced that either squad is either going to get opportunities to push pace or try to push pace in this one. And again, with Michigan shooting as well as they have in this tournament, with UCLA coming off an over that should have been an under, I could only an under in this one.
All right, Teddy, good stuff for March Madness. Hitting some questions here in the chat box, guys. Feel free to throw them out. We got Ken saying, I miss bad beats. Was Bama's three-pointer the topper? I would say it was a bad beat, Teddy, in terms of totals betting. I took the loss on that. If you had the under, it went into overtime. In terms of side, I don't like to say, last-second shots are bad beats, Teddy's, but anything here on bad beats for the tournament?
So for the weekend, it was without a doubt though. Where if you had the under there were no other real. I didn't see another bad beat this weekend. So maybe there was one that I missed.
Yeah.
I didn't miss it. I don't know. I looked pretty close. Yes, that would be from a total standpoint. That would be the toughest beat of the weekend. Certainly in the big dance. For the whole tournament, there had to be something in it. Somebody got killed in the first round. Or lost in overtime or something. But it's one of those deals. It's like if you hit the 3-pointer, dude, win the game with it, But I know you should have hit both free throws, not one. And that's what this tournament's missed. There have been 2 buzzer-beating threes. That one and the one in the Florida Virginia Tech game, and both times the team that hit the buzzer-beating 3 lost in overtime. And there was no you don't have that. Oh my God, we remember this forever, because they ended up losing an OT. So I don't know if I answered the question. I kind of rambled, but thanks for the question anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. We got another one here from Glenn. Has 3-point defense been good in the tournament? ? You just went over 27% the 3-point shooting percentage for the Sweet 16. Obviously below average for the college basketball for the full season here. Could some of that be pointed towards the 3-point defense, or do you think it's just kind of nerve steady or venue? What would you kind of point to the reason being for the bad shooting from three land?
All of the above. And that's the end in terms of how you want to quantify it. How much is nerves, and rushing your process? How much is venue, and how much is good defense? That's the 3 reasons.
Yep.
I couldn't tell you. All right, it's 10% this and 40% that and 50% that. I couldn't put them into. I couldn't even begin to quantify which is more important than the other. But certainly, all 3 of those have been a factor. We are talking about elite defense. We're talking about NCAA tournament defense. We're talking about teams that have won games in the NCAA tournament. So we're not talking about weak defensive teams by and large. The weak defensive teams mostly got eliminated the first weekend. So that's certainly a piece of the equation. But I couldn't tell you. I couldn't begin to quantify if it's the major piece or just one piece. I don't know.
Okay. We got some guys in here. Kid Glue saying Teddy needs his own show. Teddy, you do have your own show on Sirius, I believe. And guys, he's got his pretty much his own show. I'm trying to tee him up on a lot here. The Opening Line Report each and every Monday, WagerTalk YouTube channel. Teddy, we got Josh saying Wayne Tinkle, Coach of the Year. I don't disagree. Would you throw out any other names?
Tournament Coach of the Year, absolutely. But in terms of the Coach of the Year, one of the number 1 seeds ends up getting Coach of the Year. It'll be Brad Underwood or something. That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
What Tinkle has done certainly has cemented his reputation as, and this is a guy who was barely hanging on to his job.
Yeah.
Were you secure about Wayne Tinkle's future coming into this year? I wasn't.
No,
his kid had already graduated. But what he's done in the last, I'll show the Coach of the Month.
Oh yeah,
that's my vote. Coach of the Year. I don't know who I give Coach. I probably give it to Drew, just because either Drew or Juwan. 2 of the number 1 seeds, both of whom had to deal with COVID pauses, and both who came out of the COVID pauses and have some bumps, and yet are still here now. So I would be more likely to give it, send it the other way. Then again, Gonzaga's undefeated right now. It'd be a number 1 seed. Probably getting that, I would think.
Kid asking Teddy, when are we going to hear you talk baseball? Anything there, Teddy?
Right now.
Okay.
Look. So let me start with this. All right. I had a craptastic 2020 MLB season. It was very disappointing. And I know there were some different nuances of the campaign, but I stunk last year. So coming out of the gate, I'm going slow in MLB. I'm probably not going to play. I don't expect to play anything the first series or 2 or 3. Might be 10 days or 2 weeks before I get involved in baseball, because we're going to try things on paper before we're actually putting them on. We're going to have a couple of winning days in a row on paper before we start giving those plays to the clients. And it's just how it is. So my MLB right now is there's a lot of watch and see, watch and learn. I'm not going to be one of these guys coming out of the gate and firing 8 plays on opening day. That's not how I'm approaching this baseball season at all. My sweet spot for MLB has always been May and June, leading the All-Star break in July. And that's where that's about a 10-week, 11-week span right there, where year in, year out, I've been pretty good. And the rest of the year in MLB has been hit or miss. So I'm focused initially right off the bat, thinking about, all right, where we're going to be at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now, what opportunity are going to present themselves. Because I want teams to be undervalued and overvalued first. And that doesn't happen necessarily coming out of spring training, because there are so many questions coming out of spring training. And for someone that's been focused on NBA and college hoops, it's not like I was sitting here breaking down the spring training games day in, day out. I don't know if you've been doing that, Drew, but it's not something I've done at all this year, knowing that I wasn't going to be involved in that, much in the first week of the season.
Makes total sense there, Teddy. We got a question. When is opening day for MLB? It's actually on Thursday, so just a couple days away. We're going to be opening it up here. MLB. We got the MLB show, guys, on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, going each and every day, Monday through Friday. So mark that down on your calendars. We got best bets previewing the main games for each day. And Teddy, what you were asking about in terms of spring training, no, I don't break that down. The years that I've gone back and used spring training numbers into my MLB handicapping, I haven't done well those years, so I scrapped it. And I come back similarly to you. I'm not a big, volume guy anyway in comparison to some of our comrades here, but I don't know. I like to go slow at the start of MLB, kind of pick my spots, look for good underdog roles with, good underrated pitchers on the hill that I don't think the market has necessarily priced appropriately. And those are the type of profiles I look to bet in MLB out the gate. So, yeah, guys, it starts on Thursday and we got the MLB show, and we'll be breaking down MLB for the opening line report as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's worth noting on Thursday, Drew, a lot of times they'll be like the Reds will start or something on the Sunday night, and they'll have a couple of games Sunday and a couple of games Monday. This is a full 15 game, every team's playing opening day. And the games start, as early as 10 a.m. here on the left coast, and they'll be going until 10 o'clock at night. So it'll be a full, good, strong opening day in MLB on Thursday. But again, personally, I doubt, again, we have no lines up yet. And what I do with, I love MLB totals. I love to ride total streaks. You don't really get that the first week of the season. So, we'll get there. And from day one, the attention goes on to MLB. But when it comes to the preseason baseball, I've done nothing. And my preseason prep for MLB is not what it is for some of the other sports.
Okay, we got Danny saying, is Arkansas coming through for the South? I don't know. The odds makers wouldn't say that, Danny. So they got them as 8-point underdogs. I mean, if you would like them to come out throughout the South, it'd be a huge plus price on the money line. I do like Arkansas plus the 8 tonight. So I like kind of both underdogs and both unders for tonight's slate in college basketball, Danny. We got some other questions here. Teddy, in the chat box, a lot of questions. I guess NBA, if you have anything, great. If not, Teddy, don't worry about it. Other questions on the board. Do you guys think the Knicks are going to cover against Miami tonight?
If Randall plays, I would only look at the Knicks. But the info I got this morning was that Julius Randle is questionable at best. Let me see if there's any update on that. But I would want to know that Randall's playing. I don't want the Knicks without Randall.
Okay.
And he's questionable. And boy, I was so excited. And the other thing is that Dragic got back in the lineup. He's supposed to be back in the lineup for Miami tonight. And the Heat with Butler and Dragic are bet on. If either guy is out, they're bet against. And that's been pretty well confirmed this season. I mean, they need both of those guys. But again, blind bet on the game would be Knicks or pass. I want no part of Miami laying this price.
Okay. Teddy, James killing it with the questions here. A couple kind of just overall betting questions. How do you know when sharp money has come in? Also, how do you know when a real steam move has been made?
Okay, so the expression that we use is the screen goes black. If you go to your WagerTalk live odds screen, you're looking at it right now. All right, here, let me pull it up so I can look at it and make sure I'm not giving you any nonsense. All right. You say when the screen goes black. So let's talk about, let's just get live odds. Oh. So if you look at the screen right now, all right, you'll see, and everything's, they're red or green. At least that's how my color coordination is based on the moves that have just been made. So you see there's been money for Golden State in the last couple of minutes. There's been money on the Memphis-Houston over on the total in the last couple of minutes. When the screen goes black, when you see all the sports books that have all moved pretty well at once or in the last 5 minutes, that's your steam move. That's when you know that a syndicate just went on one side or the other, or total, and that's what that's how you know that it is a legitimate, a steam move or a syndicate move, or whatever you want to call it. The other part of the question was, how do we know what was it about leading indicator books? Because was that my answer? What was it?
How do you know when a real steam move has been made, and how do you know when sharp money has come in?
Oh, yeah. So the steam move is you see the screen go black, or we call it go black. And again, my colors are red and green and yellow, but they used to be going black. That's what it means when all the books get moved, when all the lines get moved at once. If you're talking about where the sharp money is looking or where the money is leaning, I tend to look at the books that take the biggest bets, the books that cater to professionals. And when you see some of the books in the global marketplace that specifically cater to pros, they have a different number than your Bovadas and of the world. You know that the sharp money's on one side as opposed to the other. There's a handful of books in Vegas. Again, in Vegas, the books that cater to the pros would be Circa, Westgate, South Point. And if you look, and those three books have a different number, they're all at 7.5 and everyone else at 8. The sharp money's on the dog in that game. So I think I answered the question. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
Worry less. I mean, people worry so much about who the sharps like and who the squares like and the pros and the Joes. I worry. I'm telling you, as I've been in this business more and more, I worry about that less and less. It doesn't matter.
Teddy, I am so happy you said that, because something with sports betting that it's becoming more mainstream, and for whatever reason, people out there are talking about it so much to like, oh, this is a public dog. Oh, the sharp money's here and the square money's here. If I could pick one thing industry-wide that is overblown, it's that, guys. If you're doing a matchup handicap and you know two teams really well, and this defensive line's going to get after the opposing quarterback, and it's just going to be a rough time for one side, but the supposed sharp side is on the opposite side, guys, I would throw it out. At this point, I think it is so overblown. If I could just pick one thing that people are talking about too much, Teddy, it is that.
Oral Roberts yesterday was the single most popular underdog in the entire tournament. They were the public dog, and the public dogs they go to die.
Right. No. People talk about it when it happens, and then when it doesn't happen, they tend to forget. So that's what I would throw out there, guys. I would really look at it not nearly as heavily as doing a matchup handicap, doing your own handicap, and trusting if you have the time to do it, to do your own handicapping. We got James also saying, is Action Network used commonly among pros?
If you're asking the question, you know that question, or you know the answer already. I will not diss. I have some friends that work over there. I will not diss their product. I don't know a whole lot of pros that get involved with Action Network.
Teddy, some more questions here.
Is that the right way to phrase it without dissing them? I want to make it clear that they know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't know, Teddy. I'll even take it a little bit further. Do you think, I guess, quote unquote, pros are using the, money inside percentages, the tickets written, to be able to come up with, public dog, just going back with amount of money here and amount of tickets written here? Do you think people are really relying on those numbers, because they're actually really hard to get? I mean, how accurate are they?
So if you're interested in you want to fade the public or look at the consensus, you better look at a consensus of consensuses, is all I'm going to say.
Okay.
On the WagerTalk live odds screen, there is a consensus. At other sites, there are other consensuses. They don't often they don't necessarily match or mesh with one another. And if you're going to use that as an element in your handicap, you better make sure the consensus you think you have is actually real, which means looking at a variety of consensus sites.
I'm with you, Teddy. No, good stuff, guys, and great questions in the chat box, guys. It's the opening line report each and every Monday on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, also on Twitter. If you're liking the content, please smash the like button. Feel free to chime in the chat box. Any last questions here, guys? Any best bets that you're looking to bet? Feel free to throw them out here on tonight's slate. We'll get them out to the watchers. And if you're watching on replay, feel free to leave a comment below. We'll try to answer your question on next week's opening line report. Teddy, any MLB talk? I think we should talk about it because we're not going to have the chance to talk about it together until after opening day. But we do have opening day on Thursday. We got season win totals out, futures out. I have made a wild type of bet here. I'll throw it at the end, but talking about, I guess, the NL East is kind of top of mind for me because we had the surprising Miami Marlins being the most profitable team in the NL East, one of the most profitable teams in all of baseball. Their season win total 71.5. I know it's a tough division. A lot of teams there spending a lot more money than the Marlins, but I think the Marlins are a little bit underrated. I know the Braves are really good. I would look for the Braves, their season win total around 90 to hit that over. We got the LA Dodgers with their payroll, $250 million, Teddy. And no, I'm not embellishing. That's $248 million being spent on their payroll for this season in the LA Dodgers. And sure enough, that gets him a season win total of 103.5. But the San Diego Padres projected second in the NL West. They've spent a lot of money too, and they have a heck of a pitching staff, bringing in Blake Snell, Yu Darvish as well there in Petco Park. So the NL West is going to be fun. NL Central kind of up for grabs here. A lot of season win totals, tightly around each other. I think the St. Louis Cardinals 86.5. Other teams there above 80. So kind of a tight race in the National League Central. I would say, the Dodgers to win the National League, but that's not really creating any news there. Probably a lot of people's picks. Anything you liking in the National League, Teddy?
Well, one thing I don't like necessarily is the Miami Marlins.
Okay.
You were talking about Miami as being a team that wildly overachieved last year. But the issue is the division they're in. All right. The Nats are no joke. Okay. No joke. The Phillies, while underachieving, they're certainly not bottom feeders. Phillies an above 500 team. All right. The Mets are in spend money mode. They're in compete now mode. And they certainly have both a rotation and a lineup that says we're better than 500 team. And Atlanta is being considered and I don't blame the markets for looking at Atlanta as if you look at this, the Dodgers and everybody else, but Atlanta's near the top of the everybody else list. So you have a brutal division for Miami. They're weaker than all those teams by a wide margin, and they overachieved last year with a bunch of young guys who are all primed for sophomore slumps. I would look. I lean Miami under 71.5 is a bit rich for that team.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, Teddy. That's what makes the market. We got American League here. In the AL East, the Yankees, I guess the Red Sox maybe due for a little regression. We got the Chicago White Sox, very surprising last year. The Minnesota Twins, a lot of people high on. And then out in the AL West, I've heard some people liking the Texas Rangers under. Not a very good rotation there. We got the Oakland A's. Not too much that I liked in the American League. Haven't spent enough time on it. This afternoon, I'm going to do a lot of research on the American League. And guys, we have the MLB show tomorrow where we're going to be breaking down the AL preview. But anything off kind of top ahead for you, Teddy, in the American League?
I mean, the White Sox are like the wise guy team of the offseason. There was nothing but love for the Chicago White Sox. We've seen plenty of over money on their win total before the Jimenez injury, at least. And it's a team that's taken a fair bit of money to win the division, a fair bit of money to win the AL, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels like there's a team like the White Sox every year in baseball. The up-and-comers, team with a bunch of young talent. And every year it's like the year after they get hyped that they're actually good. I've got my concerns about the White Sox, and I think that coming in the campaign, they're at least a little bit of an overvalued commodity. People telling me that Dallas Keuchel and Lance Lynn are impact pitchers in a positive way. I'm not buying that staff. I'm not buying the White Sox just yet. I think Chicago, I'll be looking to bet them over the total if the weather's decent on the south side. I do think they'll be scoring runs. But I'm not sold on their pitching, and I'm not sold on them winning 95 or 100 games like the people that expect them to contend seem to be thinking the White Sox are going to do.
All right, Teddy. Last question here. MLB season win total question for you, because we got YouTube in the house saying don't sleep on the Pirates. Well, Pittsburgh Pirates, I believe the lowest season win total at 58.5. So you can bet the over for the Pittsburgh Pirates season win total 58.5. They could lose over 100 games, Teddy, and you can win your bet. So that's just kind of, something to get your mind around. Winning 60 games, losing 102, and you still hit the over. That's how low priced the Pirates are. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we got the LA Dodgers spending all that money. I mean, look at their rotation, look at their lineup. It's like an all-star team, and their season win total at 103.5, 103.5. So they got to win 104 games for you to win your season win total bet. Just kind of the outliers here in terms of really, really high season win totals and really, really low season win totals. Do you tend to kind of stay away from them, or do you think there's actually value in betting them either over or under?
So in the NFL or the NBA, for that matter, with the highest win totals, I tend to look under, and with the lowest win totals, I don't know. I might look over. In baseball, I'm the other way around, man. The Dodgers can win 120 games this year. if they're mentally ready to win 120 games, if they're focused on a daily basis, their rotation is injury proof. Their bullpen's injury proof. Their lineup's injury proof. I'm not betting the Dodgers. The Dodgers go under if they're not interested in September.
Right.
Because they already have a 40-game lead in the NL West. With the Pirates, quick, name 3 Pirates. No,
don't do that to me.
I couldn't do it. It's as nondescript team as there is in MLB. They're the lowest win total for a reason. Every team in the National League is better than the Pirates. So maybe the young talent starts showing up, and maybe the farm system is better than we thought that there was, and maybe Pittsburgh wins a couple of games. I still ain't going to ask that team to do anything but lose 100 games. All right? If I'm playing the Pirates, I'm playing them under. That's a bad baseball team. So I guess I am sleeping on the Pirates.
All right, we got a couple questions here, then we'll wrap it up. James saying, when a bettor can't get his capper's number but still wants to bet it, what amount should they adjust their bet? ? Teddy, one thing I'll say to this is make sure your handicapper, and this is something I think Sports Memo has done in the past and WagerTalk doing now, has done a good job, is make sure your handicapper is giving out a bettable number. Widely available is something Teddy, Andrew, getting into this business were really harping on me on, and it makes total sense because I think industry-wide, Teddy, with sports betting becoming more mainstream and kind of handicappers out there quoting records where bettable numbers are very questionable. So one thing I would say is make sure the site you're going to is legitimate and giving out numbers, because I don't always think that that's kind of, at the really a lot of people new to this business really know about, Teddy, that guys can actually do that and therefore have fraudulent records. So that's something that I know you and I both have kind of put it at the forefront of doing. So James, that's how I would first start by saying this. And second, I would say, you should kind of, I always put like 3% play and then maybe like 1.5 with a college basketball total to the under, then take 1% off of that. And then another 1.5 down. So you do lower your bet with each kind of move that it goes against you. But I would start with saying, make sure the handicappers are actually not a WagerTalk and Sports Memo, because I know they're doing that at the back end, but industry wide, that you're getting numbers that are actually bettable.
Yeah, some people industry-wide post, openers from one book and then claim winners when none of their clients actually won. And that's not something we want to do, because then it goes on your record as a W, and all your clients are go, "What the F just happened?"
Right.
I didn't win on that game. So we avoided that, and we've avoided that intentionally. But what was there was something specifically from the question that I wanted to answer.
What amount should they adjust their bet?
Right, yeah. With every write-up, I put a line parameter. Personally, I can't vouch for anyone else at WagerTalk or Sports Memo, but with every play that I release, I'm like 4% at blank or higher or lower, or better or worse, whatever, and then the 3% at blank. Depending on the. So I'll give you a parameter. If you don't get the line that the play was released at, you reduce your wager size. And that's clearly defined in every pick that I release. So I can't vouch for anyone else, but that's something that I do to try to help you guys. It helps me in thinking about the games as well. So line parameters, look for them.
Line parameters are very important. Make sure you're getting really bettable lines out there, guys. So good. Thanks for the question there, James. We got Pacoda projections. A question here from Dominic. How important are they in MLB betting? That's just different projections overall. I guess you could say advanced analytics, I think, are important, Teddy, but they're really worked into the betting market. So I don't know how much value there can be in just one set of, Pacoda projections here, Teddy. Anything quick on this?
Yeah, I mean, so in MLB, the betting markets are dominated by analytics. And if you can find any other way to approach MLB that's not purely stat-based, analytics-based, it may give you an edge, because Drew nailed it. The stats, the numbers are baked into the money lines for MLB day in, day out. So I tend to try not to look at what everyone else is looking at when I'm trying to pick winners. Because if you're just betting the same thing everyone else is betting, looking at the same info everyone else is looking at, which isn't necessarily this. There are some really good projections out there, but in general, the analytics control the MLB marketplace. And I personally try to undervalue them as opposed to overvalue them.
Teddy, as we round it up here, Frenchie coming in with a last-minute question. Why don't U.S. bookmakers take foreign money? ? I'm not really sure on that answer, Teddy. Do you know?
Because they're not taking money from anyone that doesn't live in state. And if you live in whatever state, that means that you should have U.S. currency, in theory.
Yeah, Frenchie, I would say, there isn't a lot of businesses in the U.S. that take non-U.S. dollars. So that's where I would kind of point at, even though I'm not really sure. Although, Teddy, I will say this. Living in Las Vegas and mainly hanging around the Westgate sometimes of the sports book, the Mexican La Liga is pretty popular. And you'll notice they'll put it up on the screens there. So that is like a growing league for betting, talking about, soccer anyway, Mexican La Liga. Have you noticed that?
Sure, but the bets that are being made on La Liga are being made in U.S. dollars.
Right. Yeah, it's just, you can tell just going around, there's a lot of Spanish being spoken and guys drinking some Coronas and rooting on their bets. It's kind of fun, actually. I've made a couple of Mexican La Liga bets, not very well, but it's fun. So he's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, thanks for chiming in the chat box. Great questions all along. Check out Teddy's Sports Memo, WagerTalk.com. March Madness college hoops since 2016. He's 56%. That's 117 and 91. And also in the NBA since last August, 87 and 67, 57%. And guys, like we talked about at the top, NFL season win totals since 2001. One of the best records you'll see. 91 and 41. That's 69%. NFL season win totals. We got the draft coming up. What, about a month away? Under a month, Teddy. So that's exciting stuff. March Madness going on. Opening day on Thursday. Good time to be a sports bettor. Any final thoughts here, Teddy, before we shut this down?
So just now, if you go to your WagerTalk live odds screen as we speak, the Virgin numbers are going up for opening day MLB. So you can watch them post live if you look right now at the WagerTalk or Sports Memo live odds screen.
Check it out, guys. Sports Memo and WagerTalk live odds. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for chiming in, guys, in the chat box. Thanks for tuning in. Please smash the like button on the way out. We'll talk